Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited to share with you today the the tome that I have in my hands right now. I think the last time I was this excited to share a comic was when I found issue 1 of Wrestling Superstar Ultimate Warriors comic in a comic shop bargain bin for $1, and I still think I paid too much. Well, I paid quite a bit for this, but this was something I was very eager to get my hands on. This comic was 10 years in the making, and the first thing you're going to notice, there's a lot of post-it notes, and we'll get to that. We're going to crack this bad boy open. I apologize for the glare of my ring light. And we're going to talk about why this comic exists, because there's quite the backstory. I saw a great review posted here on YouTube by a guy, H Squid Reviews. I'm going to try not to repeat too many of his points, because I actually recommend watching his video for the real deep dive on exactly what has brought this comic to fruition. So if you're watching this video, you probably already know who Ken Penders is, and he needs no introduction, but if you're not familiar with him, his name is pretty infamous to a lot of fans of Sonic the Hedgehog, specifically if you read the Archie comics. As he worked for Archie Comics, he was writing the series that specifically focused on Knuckles. And he created a ton of characters, a lot of storylines. They're very much separate from the rest of Sonic canon. He was kind of doing his own thing. This is important to mention because when he eventually left Archie Comics, he wanted the rights to the characters and the concepts he created. This turned into a legal shitstorm that I'm not going to go into here because that's not really my goal with the video, and I'm not personally knowledgeable enough to be an authority on the situation. We're just going to marvel at the comic here itself. But it is very important to the story to know that Penders was able to win the rights to his characters. Now that sounds good, right? Well, now Archie Comics has all these random characters and storylines that they have to pretend didn't even exist. The remaining writers had to basically figure out, how do we pretend none of this is canon and none of this happens? And now Ken Penders has all these characters who kind of only make sense in the context of Sonic the Hedgehog. And it's hard to make your own comic off of a character who's basically Knuckles' third cousin Roger the Echidna, unless you're somehow able to change Roger into a distinctive enough character. Also, I made that up. I made that name up. I don't think there was an actual Roger. Of course, Ken had like 200 characters he sued for the rights over. Maybe there was a Roger Echidna in there somewhere. But enough of that. We are going to review the goods here. Now let's start with the positives, which I do have quite a few. This came in very good condition. It was well packed. Ken took his time lovingly packaging these up. He gave each book a little kiss before sending them out. And included was this Knuckles comic, which I didn't expect at all. It's also autographed. I don't remember if he advertised this as he was going to give you a Knuckles comic. I probably completely forgot because I ordered this in like January. It was a while. There is also this print that's autographed. I got the book autographed also because I knew this was going to be a treasure. This is going to be something I cherish in my collection. And this was something I got on pre-order. I got it as soon as it was available, and it did come to me pretty much on the schedule that it was projected to arrive in. It was sometime in June. So the majority of this comic, this printed tome, this is actually reprints of a series called Mobius 25 Years Later, which this is helpful for people like me who never read the series and I don't know the context of the character Lara-Su. She is the daughter of Knuckles, and as we'll see, she's the reason this book happened. Honestly, even after reading this, I'm still not really sure what the hell's going on, as I've been dropped right in the middle of an established storyline that kind of seems to be mostly about relationship drama and what everybody's going to be having for dinner. I mean, this is an understandable problem in serialized comics, as you'll always have somebody jumping in the middle of a story wondering what the hell is going on. Why is Sonic a king? I thought he was dating Amy, who's the squirrel lady. Who the hell is the walrus? I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to focus too much on these, but all of these stories were written by Ken Penders. He inked a few of them, and we can see at the beginning of the chat. I don't know who this lady is, but her design goes hard as hell. She is cool. Okay, so you can see, let me give a little more of a close-up. You can see Ken is writing on all of these, inking for a few of them. He did actually, on one of these chapters further on, he did the writing, inking, and the penciling, and that one kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. I'm gonna find it here. Yeah, I do think a little bit of the style being used in this series, as much as I do like some aspects of it, it's a little bit wonky. This is where the art is very wonky. Now, Ken's inking is perfectly fine, and he's actually done Star Trek comics, and he can draw realistic people perfectly fine. It's his Sonic art, just weird things happen. I don't know, man, just something about Knuckles' teeth right there. That ain't it. Now, a lot of people were asking, what are the legal ramifications of Ken reprinting this? Did he actually get permission from Archie? And we don't really know. Archie Comics actually doesn't have the rights to Sonic anymore, and Sega might not want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. I have heard that Archie Comics can kind of be crappy about making back issues available. As far as I know, they don't reprint any of Pender's work specifically. This might be the only way you're going to get this in print form in the modern era. Penders has also said he intends to publish reprints of all of the Archie Sonic comics, and it kind of says, like, it sounded like he was saying he wants to reprint things even if he didn't directly, he wants to reprint stuff he didn't even write, and everybody is like, how are you allowed to do this? And Ken was just like, well, they can't tell me no. They're not going to. I'm going to do it anyway, so I have no idea how that's going to work out. Which, considering how this, I assume the reason this comic took 10 years to come out is because there was some kind of legal battle going on with the reprint, but that might not be the case. It might really... Okay, this is where we do need to shift gears from the Mobius 25 years later. Basically, the gist of that story, weather's bad because temporal disturbance, heart of the planet, might destroy the world. They gotta go back in time, and then something goes wrong. That's basically what happens. And it originally ended this scene right here. And then this is a new panel that Ken has drawn recently. Something that leads into the next story. Now, this is where things are going to really get confusing. They might have been confusing already. So Knuckles has spent this entire comic being referred to as the Guardian. Now, whoever in the blazes this guy is, I don't know. We never see this guy for the remainder of this comic. He's talking about some dude called the Praetorian. Who is that? Well, that's Knuckles, because Knuckles is suddenly, his title has now changed. For the remainder of this comic, which is not very much extra comic, by the way. This is how much of this book is a reprint, and this is how much of the book is actually new material. So now we get to the part of the book, what people were expecting to get when they purchased this, for the most part, was pretty much, I think most people didn't expect that the majority of the book would be reprints. We're going to see a pretty dramatic shift in the art style, which that is understandable. You know, Penders can't really use the Sonic style for these characters. He had to redesign all of them, and... Now, full disclosure, I'm pretty sure I was drinking when I was first reading through this comic. So, I was having a little bit of a hard time following this story, and I thought maybe the booze was talking when I was looking at this page, and I thought, Hey Ken, did you forget how to draw your own character? What happened here? She why is her face change? We've got did he just redesign his character mid-page? Well, apparently what I was supposed to be doing is I was supposed to be watching this timestamp here that we're looking at backwards. And that, what I did not realize is there is a 1 second span of time that has essentially gone missing. And in that 1 second, there have been subtle changes to these characters. There has been a temporal disturbance. This is something that could be really interesting and it could be very effective, but the problem is the art is kind of inconsistent in general, so it's hard for the viewer to look at this and say, ah yes, this was intentional. This is also where we're going to start discussing the presence of these post-it notes. You see, I have things color-coded. Every post-it note has a one or more corresponding colored note. There's kind of a lot of different styles and textures all happening in one place. Actually, in my on my sticky noted panel here, we've got a character rendered with line art here. This guy has no line art. I think that is just Ken's kitchen wall or something that's been pasted into the background. There's a lot of realistic textures collaged in, and I think doing a collage look it has the capacity to look very cool, but this is just a little more schizophrenic, I think. These two scenes that we're looking at here, these are also what this sticky note is calling back to. We're gonna see very quickly what's going on here. Okay, here we go. Our first sticky note instance. Do you see these two images? Aside from a little more highlight, this is a little difficult to see because my ring light is causing some issues. That is the exact same image. It has been copy-pasted onto another page. So apparently this character was too much of a pain to draw again. There is another sticky note right here because you know what? That is the exact same face, except his hand is now in a different position. So the sticky notes are every single time that Ken Penders was too lazy to draw one of his own characters again. This, I think, might have been one I missed. Actually, no, this was a false flag. This is not the exact same thing. I feel like one of these, I feel like this guy, Jeffrey St. John, whatever his name is, I think this guy might have a repeated face in here somewhere. Actually, wait a minute. There we go. There we go. That scene right there, that's exactly the same. This, as soon as I noticed it, I was just having a stroke. And if you're asking, hey OZ, aren't you going to talk about the story? Well, I don't know what's happening in the story either. As far as I know, time has been disrupted. Everybody's face got weird and apparently developed the ability to make identical clones of themselves. So that was the prequel that was supposed to explain what's going to be happening next. I'm not really any more enlightened than I was before going in. In fact, I have a lot more questions here. Lara-Su Shattered Tomorrows is our next part of the story. Now, after all the clowning on Ken I've been doing for Reed using his own art here, I will say I think this is a composition that is pretty interesting. This little triptych, if you will, of the beach. I do like media where they can work a cartoon character into some kind of realistic setting, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit? That is like peak animation. This is actually something I should have sticky noted also, but I think what's more important to talk about is this gentleman right here. I swear Ken gave him only one face, and every single time this guy shows up, it's just... Okay, well, maybe, I don't know, are those maybe the same face? Not the same as the other page, but I don't know if he repeated that face. This dude he doesn't get a lot of variance to his character. This pose, it's literally the same image. Tell me I'm not crazy. Okay, yes, I am crazy, but it's just as soon as you notice it, more and more become apparent. You just start going even more mad. Or maybe it's the clashing texture backgrounds that are driving me bananas here. Okay, so this spread here, this also is going to tie back to our there has been a temporal anomaly, because we're kind of seeing Lara-Su as she looked earlier in the series. There's a couple, and I'm not going to consider this like a reused panel, because this is really him just redrawing things. That doesn't count. I don't know. I'm too lazy. These are things that have been redrawn from the earlier reprints. This panel had some questions about, why is her tongue out? I know what everybody was freaking out over here is we got the topless Echidna with her titties out. That's not even the weirdest thing Ken Penders has drawn. I know some people are like, this comic is freaking weird. That is true, but the titties are like the least perplexing thing happening. I mean, so this image here, this is what I was saying about, maybe I should have flagged this as a reused panel. I know it doesn't matter that much, but it's driving me nuts. Actually, here we go. So that and that right there. For some reason, this panel is really funny to be completely... I don't know what the context is, but that melting face in that line, I don't know, that was funny. But, okay, where is our... So, this and this reused here. And I think everybody's favorite example, this right here, this guy reused exactly on the other side of the page. This is like the Captain Underpants Flip-O-Rama. I don't want to damage my page, but it's like, you know, the Flip-O-Rama. We can fisting action here. And so this page is just like little snippets of what is eventually going to come at this rate in another 10 years maybe. So this isn't really intended to be read as a single comic page, but this is where the booze was really starting to not be helpful. But so in all my neurotic obsession over repeated art, I'm not really talking about the art itself, other than the textures being kind of confusing. I do find his coloring style to be murky, is the best way I can describe it. And it's a tricky balance, because if you look earlier in the series, if you've got a more line art heavy style, you can get away with a much, much flatter method of coloring. If you're going minimal line art, all colors, you gotta make sure your colors are damn locked in. Okay, so after that, we get these character bios, Lara-Su, and this, I think, is where I started screaming. That known family. So, can you take in the paragraphs of characters? These might potentially be characters that all showed up in the Ken Penders Knuckles comics. I don't know. There are literally 200 of these characters that he sued for ownership of. Maybe all of these people are important in that series. We don't know who any of them are. If you're just reading the Lara-Su Chronicles, and I think that's one of the main issues with, if you're just judging this part of the book, and if you just ignore everything happening here, you have no idea who these characters are. You don't really know what happens. Like, the whole biggest problem with the Lara-Su Chronicles is you need backstory of both the events of the Sonic comics, and you need knowledge of a lawsuit in real life. And there's Leenda, and she doesn't even show up in these new pages. So we're just like, hey, there's this lady. What'd she do? I don't know. Making a Sonichu comparison, I think, might be a little too brutal, but it really is kind of like Sonichu, where in order to understand the events of the comic, you have to be gang stalking the author. There are events in Sonichu that can be only understood if you know that the guy who wrote it got arrested in a Walmart. You have to know about the time he got kicked out of the mall. When I write my comics, I'd like you to be able to enjoy them just on their own and not need the contextual knowledge that I don't know, almost ran over by a Tesla Cybertruck the other week. Sums the entire comic up right there. Shat. Well, I also have this marked because, once again, Michael Taylor... Okay, we got that face. It's been copy-pasted there. I'm not going to consider that for the reused thing. Because if there's like a panel within the comic and it's featured here in a character bio, I'm not going to count that for the reused face. But that's a face being reused. And also, I got a sticky note on the cover because you know what? Exactly the same face right there. This dude has one face. It's just been copy-pasted. And then if you just did not get enough of the titties... It gets repeated right there. What gets me, everybody's getting all weird about the boobs there. Look at the baby. This is kind of like Renaissance babies where they had grown adult proportions. That's what gets me right there. Let's see. I'm not gonna show the acknowledgement page. If you pre-ordered the book, you got in the special thanks page. I'm gonna keep everybody's name a secret. Actually, is she just like... Is she outside just lying on the concrete in the middle of the street with her titties out? That's the question I have. Everybody, like I said, everybody's getting all weird about the breastfeeding. I think there's weirder questions to be asking here. The whole comic kind of feels like I drink floor cleaner. But all in all, I want to end on a positive note, and my positive note is it is damn good print quality. It is definitely a quality, it is a solid book. You could press tofu with it. Am I happy I got it? Actually, yes, I'm very happy that I own this. As soon as I heard this was come out, I was like, yes, I need this. I need to see this. I am here for it. I think there was also a shirt available with Lara-Su on it if you wanted to get that and, you know, wear it out in public. I'm not sure I know what would have been on the shirt. I don't think I saw a picture of it. I don't know who bought the shirt. I can look at the acknowledgments and see, but I think it's a good time to conclude my review of this book. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you do, leave a like down below. If you did not enjoy the review, I don't know what to say. This book turned my brain into soup. But I'll see you next time, reviewing a much better comic.